Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Philip Flores, and if you're new here, we talk a lot about Nikon. Recently, this whole last year, we've been talking about the Nikon Z6. I use it mostly for video in my life, but it's been very useful for photographs as well. I go through weird little tests, and I just try to explain to you guys, just from a more realistic perspective, the numbers, the specs, the experience that I have with the Z6. Overall, generally, it's just been great. Today's video, what can we get out of one EN-EL15 battery? That's Nikon's standard battery for all of its prosumer cameras. What can we get out of one battery with the Z6 with more intense settings? So what I'm testing is 4K 24, 1080 120, and 14-bit raw uncompressed photographs. So what I did was I put the camera on a sliding rig, and I have that sliding rig hooked to a little motor. It's the iFootage Shark S1 slider. And I told the rig to just move the camera back and forth indefinitely while I was doing these tests. And that's because I wanted to use the autofocus in the camera as well, because I think that that is going to play a role in your battery life, is if you're autofocusing, especially with video. So the first test that I did was 4K 24. I put a photograph in front of the sliding rig so that the auto area AF was tracking some faces in the picture as it moved back and forth. I used the 35mm f1.8S lens. It's a fantastic lens. It is super sharp. I'm going to do a little bit more of a review on that later. So the first test was in 4K, 24 frames per second. My exposure settings were 1/50th for shutter to get that 180-degree rule. ISO was 640. The aperture was set at f1.8. I had the VR at normal. There's off, normal, and sport. I just had it on normal the entire test. So the camera rolled back and forth doing the video, and I got 2 hours and 2 minutes, roughly. I need to tell you that the camera has a similar limitation to other Nikon digital SLRs. In video, you can only record 30 minutes at a time. Which, by the way, come on Nikon, what are you doing? Just let us record for however long the battery lasts, right? Or the card. 2 hours and 2 minutes for 4K 24. The camera didn't really get that hot. It did warm up a bit. You know, with that 30-minute limitation, you could probably give or take my numbers. Subtract, I don't know, 30 seconds or a minute or whatever makes you feel happy. But I would run over to the camera and actually had the LCD screen sort of tilted out and up so that I could see when it stopped recording, as quickly as possible. I also set a timer on my phone so that I would know to go back to the camera and check it when it got close to the 30-minute limit. But, 2 hours roughly, and that is fantastic. The second test I did was 1080 at 120 frames per second. To match that 180-degree rule, I changed the shutter speed to 1/250th, and I changed the ISO to 1250. Let me double check that. Yeah, 1250. Everything else was the same. VR was on, the autofocus was still in full-time autofocus, auto area AF, and my numbers were 1 hour and 52 minutes. So quite a bit less than the 4K 24. We're looking at 10 minutes less time on the battery before it died. The biggest thing with the 1080 120 that I wanted to mention was this is when the camera got the hottest during these tests. And I mean extremely hot. It wasn't so hot around the grip or the other side of the body or the lens mount or anything like that where you couldn't run around and film with it, but specifically behind the monitor, behind the LCD monitor, to the touch, it was really hot. You would not want to hold your finger or hand or whatever on the back of the camera like that. The monitor itself wasn't that hot really at all, but behind the monitor, it was pretty hot. The third test that I did was the raw photographs, 14-bit, completely uncompressed. I did this test by using the intervalometer in the camera, which allows the autofocus to operate. And again, the camera's moving back and forth, so in between each photograph, it was going to refocus. And with the intervalometer settings, I just had it taking a picture every 2 seconds. Which I know, you know what, that's not realistic, honestly. I mean, maybe for some people out doing time-lapse stuff, but really, again, I just wanted to see how many photographs in the highest quality from the Z6 could I get out of one battery. And so I figured I would just take a photo every 2 seconds. This is incredible. I was recording to a 120 gig Sony XQD card, which has been great. They're very fast cards, and so far extremely reliable. In my experience, no problems, no failures, no issues. The camera actually filled up the card before it ran out of battery. So I had to run over to the camera, format the card, and let the intervalometer reset or restart. Before the card filled up, it actually took 2,313 photographs. And after I reformatted the card and restarted the intervalometer, it took another 743 photographs, totaling 3,056 photographs before the battery ended up dying. One quick note, in my experience with the Z6 and other Nikon cameras, is when the battery runs out, if you're recording video, it records the clip and then it shuts off. You don't lose the clip that you were recording in when your battery ran out of juice. Also, after the battery runs out, if you go to turn the camera back on, a little message comes up on the LCD basically saying that the camera has run out of battery and you need to replace it before you can use it anymore. Definitely, I feel like this is great. With just a couple of batteries, you can really get away with a lot of event usage, situations where you're recording different types of material, photographs and video. I think 2 hours is just fantastic for a battery with the Z6, with the capabilities. And again, these are the only 3 things that I tested because I figured they were sort of the more intense settings to use with the Z6. I know that, this was a different kind of test. It's not as real world necessarily, but I feel like it gives us a good idea of what you can get out of the batteries. Guys, the landscapers are now outside, so I've got to wrap this video up. It's way too long for just a battery review, battery test video. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing. This is the kind of content that's going to be coming at you from this channel for the foreseeable future. Also hit the like button, that really helps me out, and leave a comment down below. I definitely like to have a conversation with you guys. If there's any information that you feel like I could help you with, don't hesitate, ask down below, and I will do my best to reply as soon as possible. We'll see you next time.